of Four Corners, Part 1, the Planning Model. What are the Four Corners? The Four Corners, as depicted in the sketch you see here, are a group of buildings at the intersection of two imaginary streets in an imaginary upstate town in New York State during the first years of the 21st century. In this sketch, the imagination of the designer has placed a bank, a public library, a block of retail shops, and an automobile service area. From this beginning, the final architectural model will develop. The Four Corners project consists of two different models. The first model, called a planning model, is built to a small scale with a minimum of detail. The purpose of the planning model is to assist in developing a guide for the final model. The second and final model is called a display model. The display model is built to a scale suitable for public display and is highly detailed. To begin, we decided upon a suitable scale for the final display model. We selected the scale known as International HO, a popular scale for model buildings. International HO is also known as 1/87th scale, in which every foot of length of a real building is represented as a length of 3.5 millimeters in the model, about 1/8 of an inch. The planning model, built to a smaller scale than the final display model, is built to a scale of 1/348. Every inch in the final display model is represented by only 1/4 of an inch in the planning model. Here we see the completed 7-inch planning model placed on top of the 30-inch display baseboard. Here we see the plan for the baseboard of the Four Corners planning model, which is only 7.5 inches long and 5 inches wide, representing a final display model which will be 30 inches long and 20 inches wide. The baseboard for the planning model is made from scrap material known as boxboard. Boxboard is a type of paperboard that is used for making ordinary boxes of food products, such as breakfast cereal or crackers. Boxboard has two different faces. The shiny outer face on which the advertising is printed is called the clay coat side of the board. The inner face is called the craft side. The baseboard for our planning model seen here is made from two small rectangles of boxboard cut from a discarded cereal box. We glue the two rectangles face to face in order to provide rigidity, because boxboard is very flexible unless laminated or otherwise reinforced. When laminating, we always cement the clay coat sides to each other, so that the shiny printed advertising does not detract from the appearance of the model. Later, we will provide additional reinforcement for the baseboard of the planning model. We will cement strips of 3/8 inch basswood along all four edges of the model. The basswood strips will serve two purposes. First, they will increase the rigidity and flatness of the baseboard. Second, they will simulate the future appearance of the final 20 by 30 inch baseboard of the display model, which will be reinforced with heavy wooden strips along the bottom edges. We now begin constructing the superstructure of the planning model. By superstructure, we mean those parts of the model that stand upon the baseboard. In the case of Four Corners, which represents 4 building sites at the intersection of 2 streets, we add the building sites as shown in the designer scale diagram. The 4 building sites encompass the outlines of the future sidewalks, curbstones, and construction areas. The building sites are made from boxboard cut to the shapes dictated by the planning diagram and then cemented to the baseboard. Colored paper cut to shape from artist pastel and charcoal drawing pads are cemented onto the areas representing the streets and sidewalks. For the sake of uniformity, pavement markings are drawn on a computer screen and printed on a computer printer before being cemented onto the model. The planning model is built to a tiny scale, where every inch of length represents 29 feet in the real world. The first building we will make for the planning model will be the bank. The bank model, in which every inch of length represents 29 feet in the real world, is made from a combination of boxboard and thin cardstock. The boxboard is obtained from the designer's supply of flattened cereal and cracker boxes, and the cardstock is cut from ordinary 3-inch by 5-inch index cards. second building for the planning model is the public library. Here we see the designer's perspective sketch for the library. And here we see a scale working drawing derived from the sketch. The buildings on the planning model are not fastened down upon the baseboard. The reason for this is that the planning model is a tool for the designer to construct the most pleasing arrangement of buildings. If a building does not suit the ultimate design requirements of the model, it can then be easily removed and replaced with another removable building until the desired effect is obtained. The completed planning model is a faithful three-dimensional representation of the designer's original perspective sketch. The two intersecting streets of four corners have now been given names by the designer. The street across which the bank and the library face each other is called Main Street. The intersecting street is called Maple Street. In this view, we are looking along Main Street with the bank in the left foreground and the retail block in the left background. This is the view along Main Street with the retail block in the right foreground and the library and bank in the background. This final view is along Maple Street with the retail block in the right background. The original sketch proposed an automobile service area across Main Street from the retail block. The planning model has substituted a municipal parking lot for the service area. It is important to realize that the planning model is not a rigid plan that will dictate the final appearance of the display model. The final display model will refer to the planning model with regard to general appearance, but the details of architecture and landscaping in the final model will not be bound by the appearance of the planning model. The planning model, like the original sketch, is merely a step in the realization of the final display model. For additional information about the Four Corners model, visit www.kaiserkill.com and click the link to Design Unit